Father, we ask today that you remember Shante Davis and her family. She lost a loved one today. We just ask you to continue to keep him in your care. Father, we ask that tonight as we make decisions, that all our decisions are focused on what's best for our students. We ask these blessings in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now we'll call on Ms. Fitch to lead us in the pledges at this time.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I pledge
allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I can't find that page. Would you bring me the, that's what I need. That's it. Okay.
Now is the time which the board has set aside to receive citizens' comments. Individuals wishing to address the board should have completed the form located on the table by the entrance of the door and provided it to us prior to the meeting. Comments will be kept to a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of 5 or more individuals having the same concern should have a single spokesman for the group. The board reminds speakers that this is open forum. It's not the time or the place to bring the board complaints about a particular program or a particular employee. The board has adopted specific complaint policies and specific procedures for presenting those complaints. The board cannot respond to comments in this open forum, but can inform you of policies, complaint procedures available under board policies. Forms will be considered on a first-come, first-served basis. Speakers need to address the board forum at the podium, from the podium. Total time allotted for this portion of the meeting is 30 minutes. And Mr. Martin will keep time for us, and I will call to the speaker's attention should their time limit expire. Now we will call Ms. Jaya Willis.
Good evening, President Urban, board members, and Superintendent Dowdy. Thank you for your time. I am Jai Willis, a Covey senior at the Nacogdoches High School. Attending Nacogdoches High School has been full of ups and downs. Luckily, we as students have been able to overcome such downs and turn them into ups until this year. This year was rocky from the beginning and it never changed. Instead, it became worse as the year progressed. With the strict administration that both students and teachers received, the school was unable to be a world-class school where world-class things happen. This school year was threatening to many teachers, and as a result, it affected the students academically. Teachers and students would talk daily about the environment and atmosphere of NHS. Not only have the teachers and students felt the threat of the hostile environment, but many NHS teachers have decided to resign, retire, or move. And some students that I have conversed with are considering switching schools due to the unfortunate events that have occurred this year. Losing experienced instructors will greatly affect the students as well as the academic performance of NHS by replacing these instructors with teachers who have not had any experience at NHS or with NHS students. In a recent research essay entitled Texas Education Crisis, written by myself, I wrote about the Texas educational system and why many school districts lack teachers in academic success. Many teachers, not only in our school district, feel burdened by their school's administration. Our educational system at NHS is a great example of this because our school is indeed affected by the unprofessionalism provided by certain NHS administrators. The administrators heavily police teachers while becoming friends with students. Many teachers noticed this and became uncomfortable with the amount of pressure they received from the administrators. Seeing many of my past instructors and mentors leave has affected me as a student as well as my family. Students and their families build a bond with their teachers and instructors, and once they graduate, many students come back to see those instructors and mentors. Now, with the sudden change in atmosphere at NHS, many of the alumni students refuse to step foot on the campus. Not only do the administrators police teachers, but their hospitality to parents and other visiting guests leaves much to be desired. The NHS atmosphere has changed drastically from a friendly environment to a harsh one. Being a student, I know that there's much that I'm not aware of. but I've seen and heard enough to voice my opinion and hope for a change. One teacher stated to me this past April that if you as a student speak out and use your voice, there will be a change. There has to be a change. Because if children are speaking out, then they should know that there's a problem occurring at NHS. Here I am, a student of Nacogdoches High School, hoping and asking for a change in atmosphere, as well as in the administration. I hope that you as a district board consider the opinions presented today and help change come about in any way you can. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Willis. We will now call on Ms. Mindy Winslow. That's the handout we got. Right here.
Good evening, President Irvin and board members and Superintendent Dowdy. My name is Mindy Winslow. I am a 1985 graduate of NHS. My father and mother, James and Carol Bean, are both grads from 1962 and 1964 respectively, as well as NISD retirees. My oldest two children are graduates from the classes of 2011 and 2017, and I have one child left who will graduate in 19. Praise the Lord. I am a parent, a voter, a taxpayer, and to be very clear, you work for me. Unfortunately, I see a reversal in the academic legacy handed down to us by our forebears and a cheapening of the timeless reputation of education excellence our district has always displayed, and this disturbs me. We have had an exodus of quality teachers, administrative, and support staff over the last 2 years. The years of experience leaving our district is tremendous. These are the veterans who mentor our fresh graduates who are just learning how to use their teaching skills acquired in college. They are the saints who have learned what it means that no child should be left behind. They tutor on their own time to make sure that the kids have everything they need to be successful. My children have experienced this with the very teachers and APs who are leaving and have left. They are the ones who have impacted the lives of my kids and helped them to see what they are capable of achieving. I've watched my children go from little girls into strong, independent young women. I can teach my kids about faith, love, tying shoes, and the difference between right and wrong. But what has been invested in my children came from the heart of a teacher. We used to be the school where every SFA grad wanted to get their first job, and now we're the district to be avoided. Last year, our turnover rate was 24.7%, and this year it's over 25%, while the state average is 16.5%. Our experienced teacher category also falls short of the state average. Our average year's experience was 6.3, while the state average was 7.3. After the loss of these seasoned educators this year, I'm afraid that that variance in this category will be much greater. Included in your packet is a summary of the TEA dashboard report, the proposed budget from your website, and a detailed listing of problems identified by teachers and students. Robert Frost said, "I am not a teacher but an awakener." And Lord Tennyson said, "Knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers." Having a teacher with the wisdom to awaken the mind of a student should be our utmost aspiration. When we lose sight of that very thing, we no longer belong in this business of education. Forbes magazine published an article in August of 2015 in which they found that employees leave managers, not companies. The same is true of our teachers. They are not leaving for more money or other professions. They are leaving due to poor management and leadership. Many have come forward to be heard in this forum, and I have learned over the years that there are two sides to every story, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Everyone's perspective brings their own truth. As board members, you have been elected to oversee and provide governance to this school district. As a taxpayer, I do not expect you to manage the day-to-day operations, but when you see the performance of this district declining, along with a public outcry for your attention, I sincerely expect you to leave your seat and go find the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. We now call on Mr. Rory Malik.
Good evening, President Irvin, board members, and Superintendent Dowdy. I am Rory Malik, a senior next year at Nacogdoches High School. Last year was beginning like any other year for our NHS teachers. They were preparing for another busy year under new leadership, but we're nonetheless excited to be working again. As the school year progressed, however, they were forced to comply with lesson plans that were superfluous and crushingly tedious. When the teachers would inquire about the logistics of the lesson plans they were given, known as the Fundamental 5, they were told to, quote, stop making excuses, and were accused of being indolent. This behavior is an unfortunate motif of last year's administrative behavior. This kind of hostility and authoritarianism has caused 20 faculty members to resign and 4 to be terminated. This mass exodus of faculty members will come with serious consequences for student test scores and the ability of the high school to function. This is why I'm here today. I speak not only as a student of my teachers, but as a friend of them as well. There's a serious problem of distrust at Nacogdoches High School, and we need comprehensive action to end it. First, teachers need to be trusted with their own plans. While it is crucial to make sure that teachers are teaching in a beneficial way, it is absolutely unacceptable to hold all teachers to the same format. An AP history class, for example, cannot function the same as an English class, so it is a teacher's job to specialize and adapt. Teachers cannot adapt if they are being held to a general format, and this hurts a teacher's ability to teach their subject properly. Secondly, teachers also need to be able to create effective lesson plans without taking too much time. Under the Fundamental 5 lesson planning system, teachers had to create lesson plans for every day of the year. A day's plan can be created in 30 minutes to an hour. However, if you teach 3 different levels of classes, pre-AP, AP, and regular, for instance, or even completely different classes, you have to create separate lesson plans. It would take around 7.5 hours to create lesson plans for one teacher with 3 different types of classes for just 1 week. The system of lesson planning may work in many instances, but it isn't servicing the teachers at the high school properly with regards to time. Lastly, faculty members need to be treated with fairness, and democracy must be a significant part of the school's decision-making process. All of last year, the neglected teacher and faculty opinion was agonizingly apparent. From the brooding stares of some teachers to the tears of others, it is clear that the faculty and teachers no longer had a voice. And when school staff members tried to offer advice, they were typically shrugged off. These people, these teachers, helped me succeed. I'm able to go to the colleges I want to go to because they helped me with my SAT scores. I'm able to avoid the basic classes in college, saving thousands of dollars because these teachers help me with my AP test scores. The teachers also benefit all of you as they increase state test scores. These people are my friends. It disturbs me greatly to see my friends driven to tears, leaving their students and colleagues out of frustration and or being terminated for speaking up. As an institution given legitimacy by democracy, I would hope that the school would practice it as well, but this past year it did not. We are in a serious predicament. I cannot tell you, board members, what you can do to take action. Doing so would suggest that I'm as qualified and experienced as you are at a job you've worked really hard for. So I leave the solution up to you. However, I can tell you that something is seriously wrong, and I'm asking for trust amongst doubt, I am asking for consideration amongst neglect, and I am asking for democracy amongst authoritarianism. Thank you.
We now call on Ms. Kim DeLise.
Good evening, President Irving, board members, Superintendent Dowdy. My name is Kim DeLise, and I want to begin by reading an excerpt from the Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impels them to the separation. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter it. But when a long train of abuses becomes intolerable, it is their duty to provide new guards for their future security. In other words, if you have a problem, try to fix it. If the government that derives its power from the consent of the government can't or won't negotiate, state your grievance publicly. The stakeholders of this school district have tried to fix the problem of this district. We elected new board members, we attended meetings, we negotiated, spoke publicly and privately about our grievances, all to no avail. The stakeholders of this district have reminded you that these are our students and we hold this district accountable for the education of our children. The result has been for the district to spin the facts in the media and dismiss our concerns. Number 2, when governments become destructive, it is the right of the citizenry to alter them and to safeguard the future. We have tried as teachers and staff to alter the destructive acts against our schools. Members of the faculty and staff of Nacogdoches High School suffered through an intolerable year while trying to do what was best for the children of NHS. We just kept telling each other if we worked harder and did what was right for our kids, it would get better. It did not. Number 3, when abuses become intolerable, it is the duty of the citizenry to fix it, even if it takes extreme measures. With heavy hearts and broken spirits, 40-plus members of Nacogdoches High School took the extreme measure of resigning or retiring. Some of the most amazing, dedicated, caring people in this community made the gut-wrenching decision to take a stand against the wrong being heaped on our school. Sometimes drastic measures must be taken to fix what is broken. Nacogdoches High School was not broken before this past year. NHS was one of the few schools in this district that was not rated by the state as improvement required. That's a pretty amazing feat, considering that NHS received, remediated, and graduated students who came to us from IR campuses across the district. Did we have some problems? Yeah. Did we need to be abused and disrespected to fix them? Absolutely not. On behalf of my grandchildren and all of the other precious children of this district, I beg you to stop reading the district spin in the newspaper and listen to the teachers and the staff at the schools. Let us do what we do best, educate children. You do what you should do best, support us by hiring excellent, proven leaders. The media spin would have you believe that the problem with NHS is spoiled, disgruntled teachers who just want more money. It's about respect and freedom to teach.
Thank you, Ms.
These are your
Delise.
schools and your children. If the district is unable or
Thank you.
unwilling
Your
to
time
do
is
its
up.
job, then it's your job to take our schools back.
Thank you. We call now Ms. Michelle Peck.
Good evening, President Irvin, board members, and Superintendent Dowdy. Reverend Irvin, I'm very sorry that you missed the meeting on Tuesday. I was really encouraged by the discussion in the workshop. The idea that the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees should not allow adult convenience or preference to take priority over the academic progress of our students gives me a lot of hope. One thing you've heard me say again and again is it gives me hope that we're going to get rid of the corporal punishment policy in our school district. I'm not the only one who believes educators should not be allowed to hit kids. Corporal punishment is banned in 31 states, and only the board's personal preferences are keeping it part of Nacogdoches ISD's policy. I'm interested in seeing the board practice what you preach. Corporal punishment is proven to harm a child's ability to learn, and maintaining this policy because some of you believe in this practice should not take priority over the academic advancement of our students. Speaking of adult preferences, the board provides zero constraints regarding the weapons with which a principal or its teacher or an administrator can use to inflict pain on a student through our corporal punishment policies. So one principal might choose to use a ruler, another might use a boat oar. There are no constraints provided by this board. There's also no constraint about how hard a student can be hit. That's terrifying for me as a parent. Corporal punishment has been dismissed by the medical community, by educators, by religious organizations, and by human rights organizations as an archaic form of discipline. Our superintendent has worked to develop and promote a positive behavioral intervention program that doesn't include beating kids. In deference to your elected positions and demonstrated service, I question decisions based on your personal values and opinions versus scientific facts and the health, well-being, and education of our district's children. Will you as a board accept the liability that could arise if the district's corporal punishment is misapplied or if a piece of paper is misfiled? It seems to me that right now the district is operating outside of the scope of Texas state law by having parents file their opposition at the school level instead of with the board. At the very least, community values, personal beliefs, liability, and proven research aside, there's an opportunity for this board to limit the mountains of paperwork added to the pile sorted and communicated between schools and families at the start of every school year by reducing the load. Simply reverting to an opt-in policy for corporal punishment would eliminate so much paperwork, and it would create a written record for the district of parents who are okay with physically harming their children and could serve to protect kids down the line should an educator intervene to report an abusive home situation. Again, I appreciate your service, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to our elected officials as a parent and a member of our community. I hope our district's focus on student outcomes can include providing a safe place in which children don't feel threatened and beaten into submission, or teachers for that matter, based on what we've heard tonight, but that they're given a chance to grow and learn in an environment supported by educators that they can trust.
Thank you, Ms. Peck.
Thank you.
We now call on Ms. Carolyn Cockburn.
Good evening, President Urban, board members, Superintendent Dowdy. Nacogdoches has been a topic in both television and social media as of late. To name highlights, 5 of our schools being designated by TEA as priority focus schools in need of intervention. Money is being spent on lawsuits against the Attorney General. $9,850 on a logo for a water tower. $18,000 spent on a sign when educational needs are not being met, and high teacher turnover. Senator Dowdy made the news with KTRA during an interview about our teacher turnover and reminded everyone that student outcomes won't change until adult behaviors change. We've heard this mantra about school reform the last year. Lone Star Governance was set up to intend to test the willingness of boards and district leaders to seriously pursue systemic transformation in their schools. Is systemic transformation happening at NISD? Are these adult behaviors changing? I'm not convinced. Instead of doing away with corporal punishment, our board continues to endorse it. Instead of focusing on funding resources that will benefit moving our children forward in educational gains, we continue to spend money on secondary needs like logos on towers, signs, and needless litigation. Our board seems to have lost focus about spending time on student outcomes. Our board appears to discount input from all stakeholders with rolled eyes and arguing with public speakers being proof of what I have to say. How is anything going to help provide good, solid educational opportunities and turn our schools around for all the children who attend NISP? I'm afraid we're off track. When children who attend or have attended our schools continue to come to the board with their concerns and are a lot more eloquent than I am, it's terrible that those concerns are not acknowledged and legitimate issues are ignored, and it proves that we've lost the focus of our endeavors, which is our kids. I have read a wonderful reminder this past week about the importance of public schools written by a principal at Longview ISD that I want to share with you. She had insight that we could benefit from. In her article, she pointed out the importance of having cash to move her school forward for all children and not just those with well-informed parents and college-educated parents. When she referred to cash in her article, she wasn't referring to dollars. She was referring to knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. She spoke about public schools providing opportunities for every student because without access for all and advocates for all, our nation destroys educational access for marginalized segments of our society, such as kids from economically disadvantaged homes. And I believe we've forgotten that here. My reminder from her article to you, board, and Ms. Dowdy, let's give every child a voice and advocate by strengthening our public schools and not weakening them. Let's focus on every kid with cash. Every child deserves to have an educational opportunity and strong public school teachers that our tax dollars are meant to provide inside our classroom instead of the adult behaviors that
Thank you so
are not
much.
changing.
Thank you. Okay, we come now to the information items and report segments of tonight's meeting. And I want to begin with the, as president, by giving the vision for the district. And tonight, allow me to begin by expressing my appreciation to all the NISD employees who do an invaluable job for the district. But I want to especially express my appreciation to our teachers who pour themselves out day after day to ensure that our students have reach that academic excellence. But yet, in spite of the hard work of the teachers and all of our district employees, in spite of your dedication and in spite of your commitment, I have let you down. I've served as an NISD trustee for 5 years. And in each of the 5 years, I've allowed myself to become distracted with agenda items that neither has or will impact student outcomes. And I've got to confess, as a result of ignorance, I thought that I was doing the right thing. But it's been stated that once you learn better, you ought to do better. Now I know better. I've completed several hours in the Lone Star governance training. I saw where I've really been doing a disservice because I didn't make student outcome a priority. And with that being said, I want to commit myself to setting district goals that address the educational needs of our students. I want to commit myself to setting in place progress measures that will cause me to remain strictly focused on the betterment of our students. And in addition to these commitments, I want to commit myself to school board meetings to which 50% or more are centered around student outcome. That's what I want to do to make things better. Now, concerning all the complaining and the disgruntlements across the district, I'll assure you that I'm very well aware, and it's very troubling to me, very troubling. And because I know that in order for our district to reach our goals and to be a healthy district, there must be unity. The board has hired Ms. Dowdy as our superintendent, and we've set our goals. And at this point, it's our job to hold her accountable for the district. And therefore, as board members, we are not permitted to involve ourselves in the day-to-day operations of the district. So I encourage you as district employees to employ procedures set forth in our district policy, and therefore, if there's any injustice, the board will be able to hear it and make a judgment. And I will remind the board that should you become involved in a complaint before it comes to a level 3 status, then you will have to recuse yourself and consequently won't be able to be a part of the resolution. And just let me conclude by saying, as a district, we have students to educate. We have policy in place whereby to operate. And now it's our opportunity to come together as a community and cooperate that we can make NISD the greatest district in the state of Texas. Thank you. And being that I'm not in this alone, please permit me to allow my colleagues the opportunity to have brief expressions if they so desire.
I would like to say something. As a new board member, my commitment is strictly to the outcome for kids to be educated and supporting the staff in NISD. My position is that we have a great district, we have great teachers, we need to build it, we need to get it better, and we're going to do that. Give us a chance, let us do our jobs, please.
Anybody else? Before I move on. Thank you. Anyone else? No, sir. Steve?
You want to say something, Pam? You want- Yeah.
All right. At this time, we will hear, thank you again, the superintendent's report.
Good evening. State of the district in July. Testing dates, once again, by the state have changed. For the 17-18 school year, it seems like an ever-moving target. They move them around constantly after we get the calendar set every year. Due to the state testing dates changed by Texas Education Agency, Nacogdoches has updated the 17-18 district calendar, which we had already approved, available on the district website. When you look at the website and you see the calendar, the only thing you're going to find changed are those testing dates because they move them forward, which in one respect might be good because we have a longer period of teaching and to prepare the kids. But the other part that might be a negative is that we'll get the results later. So we always like to get those results and start analyzing. Well, anytime you test later, you're going to get the results later. So in one respect, we do like it that we'll have a longer period of time to prepare the students. The only dates that changed were the STAR and the end of course testing dates in April and in May. You can check that out on our website. They're already up. NISD transportation. Stacy, are you here tonight? All right, where are you? Back over there, okay. If anybody has any questions about it, you might catch them tonight. But NISD transportation signs up beginning next week, starting July the 24th. It's that time of year to start getting ready to come back to school, through August the 3rd, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can look on the district website calendar to learn what day your child's assigned campus has scheduled bus signups. Now, Stacy, tell me if I'm wrong. Last year when we had the bus signups, we went to, what's that facility called?
We went to the library last year.
And this year our change is going to be,
We're going to the schools, we're going within the schools in the district where they are, where they can come sign and make it.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll make it easy for everybody.
for the parents to go to the campuses.
Right quick, you don't mind, Ms. Dowling.
No.
If you go to Carpenter or you go to one of the other schools and you have kids at another school, you can sign them up there. You don't have to go to the school in which where they're going.
Okay. All right, so we're trying to bring it more to the parents. Okay? Thank you, Stacy. Student and teacher achievement. Stephen F. Austin State University Assistant Professor of Elementary Education, Lauren Burrow, and NISD's elementary school librarian from Carpenter, Lindsay Taylor. Lindsay, you wouldn't happen to be here tonight, are you? Okay, Lindsay Taylor's proposal titled A Reversal of Service Learning When Young Students Teach Student Teachers was accepted as a lightning talk during the International Association for Research on Service Learning and Community Engagement. 17th Annual Conference is hosted in Ireland in September 2017, which they will get to go and present. I think we all should get to go to that. We are very proud of their accomplishment. So we want to thank Lindsay Taylor for her work at Carpenter as the
Did you say she was here tonight?
no, she's not here. Yeah. Campus and personnel updates. Dr. Briggs Vaughn, Ms. Moore, and Ms. Taylor. I think this was just super neat. Visited the homes of the summer school students, which Samuel will be talking about here presently, that made the highest grades on the iStation ISIP assessment to give them a reward for their hard work. Congrats, guys. So they went to the homes to visit those kids and give them their rewards. Nacogdoches class of 2018 seniors, make sure you have August the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 7th and 8th on your calendar to have your official senior yearbook portraits taken. No appointment is necessary on these dates. Simply come between noon to 5 p.m. on those dates. Cost is $10. Text NHS to 24, okay, the number is 24587 for updates and proofs once photos are taken. That's number 24587 if you need to have updates. Community involvement. Looking for something fun to do this summer? The Nacogdoches Public Library has some pretty cool things planned for the community. We have a wonderful community library. Visit their website and check out their events calendar. Project SOS, time of the year to start getting ready for school supplies. We need everyone's help. Supply Our Schools is commemorating 25 years of helping students throughout Nacogdoches. The 2017 school supply drive is in full swing and donations are being sought. Fill the Bus is also scheduled for Friday, August the 11th. Students across Nacogdoches County need help with supplies, including our NHS Student Council members. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dottie.
And can I introduce the next one?
Yes.
Okay. Part of our commitment to TEA, AJ, Craybill, the Lone Star governance, all of those issues that we're all under, that we are as a district under those governance issues, are committing, like Reverend Irvin said, that we are going to go focus more and more and more toward our student outcomes. So you will find more of the board member meetings concentrated on reporting out student scores and events and activities and skills that we're being taught in our classroom, how we're changing the classroom to meet today's needs for our kids. That's not a certain sect of kids, it's all students. We have got to reach all students to be successful in our accountability system. It can no longer be just the top students, it has to be all students. And so in doing so, we will be reporting out every month according to a scheduled calendar that gives reports from the campuses on their scores as we go through the year to the ending date where we give our STAR and ELC at the end of the year. So it should line up that if we're making improvement through the year, at the end result is improvement overall on scores. So tonight, part of our 50% or part of our report for governance is about our summer school. That's what happened this summer. We had a very successful summer school, one that was larger than in the past, and Sammy Kinsey's going to present our results.
Good evening, Reverend Urban, board members, Superintendent Dowdy. I'm excited to be able to present this part of the board meeting. Summer school actually addresses all 4 goals and all of our performance goals assessments. So Tuesday night, I thought we made a great start, and there was great discussion on the goals and how we're going to measure them, how we're going to have SMART goals. So as we go through this, I will try to point out how it is a little bit connected to that. So we were very fortunate this summer to increase our summer school, and we're very fortunate to have great teachers that came and worked. And I think the teachers probably had maybe a week or couple weeks off, and most of them are back in professional development right now. So we appreciate the teachers that work. Our Jump Start summer school program, our facilitator was James Allen, assistant principal at Regay Elementary. And the goal for Jump Start is to close the learning gaps of students reading below grade level and to provide support in math. This addresses goals 1 through 3. With that, we had 200 students in the pre-K through 4 summer school. We had NHS, SFA STEM students come work with the students on science skills. Students were provided small group and individualized instruction. And one of the highlights, so whenever we have a program, we always try to analyze how can we make it better for next year. But one of the highlights for summer school was the common expectations created through CHAMPS created unity among the campuses. So even though we had kids from all over the district, they were used to those expectations, and the teachers felt like that was a plus. So then we had our 5th grade SSI summer school. We also had that at Regay, and Mr. Allen was the facilitator. So as you know, 5th grade has to pass math and reading. These are students who had taken the reading and math tests and not passed them on the first 2 tries. So there was 120 students attended SSI summer school, and out of that, then those students tested for the 3rd time for the test. Then we had our 8th grade SSI, and Angela Payton was the facilitator for that. And middle school is, elementary students sometimes are excited about summer school, but sometimes middle school students aren't so excited. So they thought outside the box this year, and they tried to do it different to make it engaging. It was a high-tech summer school. It was mostly technology-based. And they worked to provide a custom learning experience tailored to each student's needs, building on foundation skills as well as focusing on target areas of weakness based on STAR results. The program served students who were not successful on the STAR, and the program also provided remediation for those students who had difficulty mastering required core content and skills. So it was different, and I think the students enjoyed it. They enjoyed being on the iPads and the computers. They had small group instruction for the teachers, so when some were working on the computers, they were able to get more of that small group. This year, this serves goal 4.2, helping our 6th grade students stay on course of passing. This year, we were able to add 1 6th grade and 2 7th grade classes, and it was a remediation program to serve students who had difficulty mastering the content in math and reading, and this gave the students opportunity to close the gap, and so instead of being retained, they were able to move on to the next grade from the completion. So we were very pleased to be able to add that one this year. So the middle school served 123 8th graders, 26 7th graders, and 12 6th graders. The number of students that retested with math only were only 28. As you'll remember, next month when we go over our student accountability report, math is definitely an area we showed the most progress in, as you can see with that. And then reading only was 43, and math and reading was 47 students retested. So the innovative ideas that they tried to make it different with the summer school for middle school was keeping the ratio small, and that's required by state, building relationship with students, and then they used a lot of technology progress monitoring. So these are programs that the kids had access sometimes during the school year, but they didn't always get to get on it because there's not always time. So they used Imagine Math, Bobby Max, Read Theory, iStation. They had clear, consistent expectations in all groups. They had a reading circle with guided reading, and a little unique, they had learning bucks so that they got rewarded for their behavior and their work ethic. So I think it created a nice culture, and I put in this picture of the teachers because, you know, they had to try something new. I mean, the nice thing about summer school sometimes is teachers get to try things, they have a little more time, and then they can bring it back in their classroom in the school year. So teachers look a little spunky, and I think they were very proud of thinking out of the box with their middle school students. We also had our high school summer school, and because of the work being done at the high school, the middle school and high school summer school was on the same campus. And that is the one feedback I got, that they would like it separated this year, which we understand that, but because of repairs being done at the high school, this year was at the middle school campus. So the goal this year for high school was to help high school students recover credit and obtain credit for new courses and prepare for the EOC retest. So they had the Edgenuity Lab, which used for credit recovery, and then the nice thing was they were able to hire content teachers, so if they were recovering on math, there was a high school math person that was able to support that. So even though it's a technology program, they got support in that way. We had 177 students attend summer school. 70 students attended the EOC tutorials. And am I correct, this is a new component to the high school summer school? Adding the tutorials was a new part that we were able to implement, and it took a lot of planning at a short basis, but those students were able to come in and repair before they could connect their retest and start. So we had 90 students earn 1 credit, at least 1 credit, and we had 100 students that earned face-to-face, so that was with the teachers. And then we had 387 students take a EOC retest. So testing doesn't stop. This addressed goal 4, trying to keep our students into graduating in a 4-year plan, because if you get a little bit behind during the year, they were given the opportunity. So this is addresses our progress measure 4.1, percentage of students in grade 9 attaining the expected number of credits.
Also, can I say, with what we did this summer, those kids that took that test actually starts the accountability system for the new year. It's not starting in the fall, it starts actually in the summer with those scores for the accountability.
Then we have our English Language Learner Summer School. The facilitators, Mr. Webb, helped organize it, and Heidi Montero was the primary of the pre-K and kinder. So the goal of the English Language Learner is to learn academic skills while improving language. We had 130 students in pre-K and kinder. That's a lot of little ones coming to school. And our secondary newcomers served 41 students in grades 6 through 12. It's very much an enrichment summer school with weekly hands-on activities to build confidence in reading and math skills, and just to learn in a real-life scenario. So it gives our kids, especially our older newcomers, it gives them the opportunity to really keep the language and not lose it over the summer, which, as we know, academic vocabulary and language is one of the biggest challenges our students and our teachers have when it comes to learning many of the things. Fredonia. So one of the reasons we were able to serve so many more students this year were the 2 grants, the TIPS grants with Fredonia and Carpenter. Melody Jenkins was the facilitator. And each campus got to sort of plan their summer school the way they wanted, thought would best serve their kids. They had 70 students attend, and they broke it in 2-week sessions. So at first they focused on the pre-K through 1, and then they focused on 2nd through 4. And the whole goal was to think about out-of-the-box thinking. How can we make school different than what they get every day and the rush? It's a time to sort of sit back and learn have a little more time to learn without the demands of the day-to-day instruction. So technology was big, literature circles, they used a lot of iPads, they saw an increase in math mastery and math facts, and an increase in motivation to read. And I think 95% attendance is really great for summer school. Because, you know, it's easy to tell mama, I want to stay home and go to grandma's house and do that. So I want to show you a clip because we are about students, and you're going to do this one for me and for Yay. So our high school STEM students in SFA, they went to SFA on Tuesday, they planned lessons, they spent several hours, and our high school students were amazing teachers. So then they came back and taught these little ones about measurement. So we have the news clip that was done on that, okay? So if you didn't see the clip, I wanted to show you this.
The audio works for sure.
The audio works for sure, okay? But the pictures of the kids, you know, are...
Students are spending some of their summer break hitting the books despite their time off. And all for a good cause. They're mentoring elementary students through one-on-one STEM lessons.
Okay, well, I will keep on going.
That's obvious.
To me, the kids are the best part, though. There we go.
Oh, good.
So these are our high school STEM students and Fredonia students.
Natchitoches High School students are spending some of their summer break hitting the books despite their time off. And all for a good cause. They're mentoring elementary students through one-on-one STEM lessons. The teams are part of the SFA STEM Academy. Don McCall shows us the volunteer outreach is a lesson of huge proportions.
Remember how you drew half the size of yourself?
Teaching proportion to a kindergartner could be a pretty tough task. Not for Natchitoches High School SFA STEM Academy students.
So right here I'm with Allison, and we're trying to find the half of her legs. So
By the end of the math and science lesson, the children had a half-size self-portrait, and STEM mentors got to share a little bit of what they know.
I'm in geometry, so we learn a lot about measuring shapes and things. So I kind of transferred that to what we did today.
Volunteer work measured up for organizers who introduced the leadership service.
I think it's important that they understand that they're giving back. They've been afforded so many opportunities to be in the STEM Academy in science and math, and this is an opportunity for them to share their experiences with children so that these children have a better understanding of what STEM means.
Little Bailey got the lesson and applied it in a creative way.
I measured my nose so I could put a nose on my face.
Donald McCollum, KTRE, 669.
Next week, the STEM mentors will visit Regale Elementary to read a STEM book to the class and lead more hands-on activities. SFA STEM Learning Center wants the volunteer mentoring to become an annual service.
So our students love learning from high school kids. That's just what I'm going to say. And they know what proportion is now, so that was really awesome. And we have great partners with SFA, and I'm asked Ms. Dowdy later in the fall, we can bring them in and recognize them for our great partnership. But they work very hard with our students in preparing these lessons. So Carpenter Elementary, and I asked Dr. Vaughn for some information. She sent me this beautiful PowerPoint, and I'm sorry because I had to cut some of your slides, but it was so long. But Carpenter is another one that used the TIPS grant. So goal 3 of our goal is based on the improvement required campuses. Because Carpenter had had the funds to have their own campus summer school, we were able to free up some of our summer school slots from TJR and add additional teachers and students from TJR and serve them at our other summer schools. So the grant is really benefiting all the schools, but in this way. So Carpenter use their summer school in a dual way, definitely to impact students, but also to start the training process for their teachers. The goal is reading. As you know, literacy is an area we have to work on. Emily Carpenter's Flying High Summer School goal was focused on improving reading comprehension for rising kindergartners to rising fifth grade students. Students were identified with the ISIP, which is an I-Station Indicator of Performance, and the results yielded 194 students in grades 3, pre-kindergarten to 4th grade were in Tier 3 level. Tier 3 indicated that students were performing seriously below grade level in need of intensive intervention. And as all of you know about RTI, the Tier 1 should be the bigger part and the Tier 3 should be tiny. It's like a triangle. So Dr. Vaughn and her teachers, they got to work. Like, what are we going to do now in the short amount of time that we have to try to impact? So they focused on improving teachers' instructional lessons and classroom management skills. And I want to say Dr. Vaughn led some teachers and they created lessons. I mean, they spent hours and hours at night creating these lessons so they'd be ready to go in summer school. And it focused on giving teachers the knowledge and skills to deliver instruction that would enhance students' reading comprehension skills. They also had a small internal teacher learning academy component that allowed teachers to receive many trainings. So we had some district reading specialists and campus specialists that were able to go in and co-teach with another teacher. So they were modeling for the teachers while working with the students. Teachers received many phonics trainings from the dyslexia teacher and other district reading consultants before and during summer school program. And so then they also worked on classroom management. It created a new culture for those kids. And as you know, one of our goals with literacy is the phonics, our K-3 phonics training that's starting next week. But these specialists gave them a little bit now so they could practice during summer school. So here is our focus area. We only had 6 students in kindergarten. We had 17 first graders, 16 second graders, 17 third graders, 31 fourth graders, and 17 that were rising into 5th grade. So a total of 116 students. And here's some of our accomplishments. The attendance, daily attendance was between 96 and 100%. Wow. And once again, that's because kids wanted to come to school and they're wanting to learn. They had very few discipline issues. 0 students were removed from the program due to behavior. Only 3 students were unable to complete summer school due to family issues. 2 out of every 3 students showed gains in their reading comprehension skills, and all but 10 of the students were tested on the final assessment. And as Ms. Dowdy said today, that the top performing students, that they had visits to the home and they were given awards from Dr. Vaughn for their work. Wow. Teachers created engaging lessons. Students were engaged. There was a positive teacher-student parent relationships. Many, many parents came in to talk with Dr. Vaughn at the end about their students' excitement about reading and them realizing that they can learn to read. And what a powerful statement when you get that, when a parent finally sees that their child is learning to read. And so 70 out of 103 students showed a significant increase. Remember, we only had 16 days. And then 68% of Carpenter's Fly High summer school students increased their reading comprehension. One thing that Dr. Vaughn did midstream is she realized that she had, I guess, the Tier 4, the Tier 3 students that really needed some significant help. And you added 2 more weeks, Dr. Vaughn, for those students. So it was a very, very small group, but we were able to use our TIPS budget to even make it even further. So those students were able to come for 2 more weeks. So that was a great positive for those kids. Okay, so here's the end driven, the end drives the mean, the results they wanted, okay? Increasing the performance on the ISIP, which is their reading skills. 103 students completed it. 70 out of 103 showed performance in overall reading ability index, and 68% of the students showed increase in their reading comprehension skills. So I would also like to show another video clip, and this is of the Carpenter Summer School, and you can see a little bit of the excitement in learning and how they used a different approach to reach our youngest students. the news wanted to go to McMichael's to get the high-tech summer school, but it was a STAR testing day, and I called up Dr. Vaughn that morning, and I said, can they come over? And she's like, well, not right now, the office, they're painting, it's everything. I'm like, well, they gotta come down. So she didn't have a lot of notice that they were coming, but she was able to show them great stuff.
Look what $2.98 buys. Find sofas.
Commercial break.
Beautiful clean poster bed, now only $2.98. This month, all of our stores are celebrating our newest location in Nacogdoches, Ashley Home Store. This is home.
And better student performance is very much the goal for educators within the improvement required ranked Nacogdoches ISD. And that effort, summer school enrollment this year, is one of the district's largest. Our Don McCollum shows us new teachers' approaches for literacy is found at one of the IR elementary schools.
At Carpenter Elementary, more than 100 students are in summer school. For students selected for a literacy camp, that calls for a rep dance. The goal is engaging students in learning.
Aloha!
Carpenter's group principal dresses the part of ship captain. Dr. Jackie Briggs Vaughn builds morale for teachers and students as they work together to improve the reading skills of those who need help the most.
So they were struggling in vocabulary, they were struggling in alphabetic decoding, they were struggling with their writing also.
Vaughn introduced teachers to a curriculum that's old school to readers of her generation. Less emphasis will be placed on sight reading and more emphasis will be placed on phonetics.
So concepts are going to make your mouth close, okay?
Vaughn says students' reading skills vastly improved by the second day. A federal grant provides for additional staff to help teachers throughout the summer.
We have our dyslexia teacher who's a specialist that comes in and works with our teachers. We also have our reading interventionist teacher that's working with our teachers over the summer to build on those strategies.
The literacy camp is 16 days. By the last day of each month, students will go home with books and a better understanding of the written word. Darla McCollum.
In July, a Temple Foundation grant will provide reading specialists to guide Nacogdoches ISD instructors on more ways to teach the structure of language.
So the phonics training starts next week, and it was exciting. I mean, it worked out really well. The other thing that Carpenter was able to do was be able to hire a paraprofessional to work with every teacher, so that the students, you can just, you know, whenever you can take a class and break it down into small groups and you do small group instruction, the more kids are gonna learn. And so they were paired as a partner. But besides the teachers working so hard and the principals, there's some other people I'd really like to thank. We did have, it was growing pains. We served a lot more students. And Mr. Lampkin, we worked hard, didn't we? Oh my gosh, you talk about getting those kids to and from summer school and us having to adjust routes and, yeah, it was not an easy feat. So I thank him. And Ms. Thacker, are you here tonight?
No.
Yes. Summer school, we served a lot more lunches, breakfasts and lunches this year. We served 1,479 lunches per day. That was our average. Now that does include her, the feeding program at the parks. But, you know, when it's great because those kids got breakfast and lunch. And then Mr. LaRue, where are you at? I know you're here. So he really he's working hard now because we had all these summer schools. Now we're trying to get the buildings up and ready to go. So the summer school does put that down. Summer school principals and Superintendent Dowdy, who had the big vision and kept us focused on working. So that was our summer school in a nutshell. Any questions?
Thank you so much.
Robin, I just want to pass on the compliment to the staff. What a great summer school. This is exciting for us to see. To all the staff that worked so hard to prepare it. And then also for those parents to push them out the door, they have a 95% attendance this summer. We're excited. I can see this happen again and maybe even crowded next year. So thank you for the great job. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Oh, I might make one more note. So with the TIPS grant, next summer, they really had, because it was so late when we got the TIPS grant, we made it a 4-week except for that, but next year the two schools have a 6-week summer school. So we're gonna extend that for the 2 tip summer schools with that. But
Great.
that's just part of the grant. We're really very fortunate to have those funds.
Thank you. All right, next we'll call on Miss Lisa Barbrick.
Good evening, President Irvin, board members, Superintendent Dowdy. A little over a month ago, we hired TASBO, which is the Texas Association of School Business Officials, to come in and do a management review on our transportation department. And Debbie Schultz came in and did that review, and her and Tom Canby are here tonight to present that review.
Good evening, Chair Reverend Irwin and Superintendent Dowdy. TASBO was selected to do a management review of transportation operations in Nacogdoches School District. This is a best practice to ask for a external school district expert who's familiar with best practices to do a review of the district, understand its operations and staffing and safety practices and training and structure and organization. And Debbie Schultz is very well respected in her field and by her peers, and that's one of the reasons why she was selected by TASBO and assigned to do this management review. The management review is very positive. It's not to be viewed as we invited TASBO to do this because we had concerns. It's a proactive way to improve our performance, and it's to be said that even the best performing in any field, any area, ask for coaching and advice on how we can do even better. So regardless of your performance level, it's a highly recommended opportunity to improve what you're doing, to deliver results. And it's a very important area because this is an area that interfaces with your school districts first. And the success of operations and student transportation, sets the tone for the students' continued experience in the school district operations and instruction and all during the day. So TASBO was very pleased to have had this opportunity. We start out in the report with commendations and then observations and recommendations. So we ask that you take this in a good spirit and just an opportunity to improve. All of us have opportunities to improve regardless of where we are in our performance level. So turn it over to Debbie.
Good evening, President Irvin, board members, and Superintendent Dowdy. And I am just feel privileged to be here. I feel privileged that you allowed me to come into your district. I think that I've made some great friends and lots of commendations in coming in. Of course, it's a new district, and having been the recipient of reviews before I retired from Cypress Fairbanks School District, I know it can be a little bit rattling when someone comes in from the outside. It's like we're being audited. Everyone hates that word audit. But they were great. I can tell you that everyone that I interviewed, casually, formally, inside the department, outside the department, they were very welcoming. They were very friendly. They were very forthcoming with lots of wonderful information. I still have stacks in my office of lots of information from NISD. But just very impressed that it was very apparent they're here for the right reason. That they're here, that they express that their sincere desire for the success of all the students in their school district. And that was great. There were several things, as Tom mentioned, that there were several commendations based on information shared during interviews, that the district's already considering hiring coaches that have been CDL licensed to drive. That's a wonderful thing, because, number one, it helps save some overtime costs for your transportation department. And additionally, it keeps your drivers who know the students and the routes best on those routes during, the AM and PM run times, and that's critical. I learned through your director that the onboarding process of new hires, that there's a great relationship between HR and transportation, that it's expeditious, and that helps to not lose employees. Because I can tell you, bus drivers are a precious commodity, not only in this state, but in the nation. It's hard to get drivers right now. Additionally, the district provides a bus aid on each of the special needs buses, and that's good. It's efficient for planning and provides safety for the students. And this information, of course, is in the report that you all were provided. The transportation department is in the process of transitioning their inventory to include items that are on consignment, which is great because that means you're not tying up a lot of dollars sitting on the shelves for inventory that may become obsolete, because that happens in a lot of districts. They purchase those items they think they're going to need and end up having to discard them because they didn't need them, and this way you pay for it as you use them. And I learned that parents are required, which sounds like it's going to be happening soon, that parents have to actually register their students to ride, which is really great because then you know who is actually on your buses. And that you have a bus conduct software program that helps the department to manage the discipline on the bus and be able to provide reports for the department and for the campuses as needed. And if you'll take a look at the expenditures and ridership comparison, I looked at, we've had peer districts that we compared, of Corsicana, Ennis, of course, Nacogdoches, Jacksonville, and Lufkin ISDs. And as referenced in the chart, you'll see that their cost per student rider is ranked medium among area and like-sized districts. You have the greatest number of student ridership, and that really doesn't even include the ineligible riders, because it's my understanding that you transport everyone. This data is taken from TEA reports where your ineligible students would not have been reported. So you were transporting over 3,400 students, which is shown in the report. And you have the greatest percentage of ridership of your enrollment, which means you're transporting a lot of students as well. In your routing and scheduling, what this is showing is that you have 47 regular buses and drivers that are transporting 77 runs in the morning and in the afternoon, and then they transport one shuttle. Your special needs, you have 7 buses and driver and attendant teams that are transporting 16 morning and afternoon runs. And the way that you are transporting your special needs, the reason they're able to do that is because they're combining some of the campuses for those rural out of area bus routes. And when you look at that, you've got the challenge for this district in being efficient with their routing and scheduling is your campus tiers, their start and end times, because there currently is not sufficient times between the different levels to actually serve a combination of runs. If you look at those numbers, for the regular program, that's only 1.6 runs per bus. And with special needs, it's 2.3, and again, that's because they're kind of combining the campuses. If you look at last year, there were 37 elementary runs, which is your second tier. You had 21 high school, which was your first tier last year, and I realize that's changing. And then 19 middle school, which is your third tier. Your buses and drivers are driven by the greatest number, which would have been your 37. And your ideal combination of bus runs, of course, when you have 3 start times, should be 3 runs per bus. That's really next to impossible in a district this size that's spread out because of your rural routes. But I do believe it's achievable to, if you modify those times, to allow for every bus and driver to serve a minimum of 2, because you're currently, last school year, there were 23 single elementary runs. And anytime you have a single run, it's a very inefficient use of your drivers and your resources, your vehicles. And if you would allow time to even have every bus and driver to have two, then you would reduce from the 47 to 39 buses, and that's where the potential savings of over $100,000 would come from.
There's our $1 million right there.
I'm sorry?
There's $1 million.
$1 million right there.
Right. And there's really creative things you can do, but the district and the parents have to be willing, because that can be a very emotional thing when you start changing school start times. But it really, and of course, being in the Cy-Fair district, we've transported for years more students than HISD with a lot less buses because we were able to triple tier. And this is really your big bang money to get, good results. In your TEA reporting, it was determined that you were definitely maximizing in studying the reports for the last 3 years. You're maximizing what you're able to get in reimbursement funding. The district's done a great job. Each of the reports was reviewed to see, could they have gotten more? Because TEA does not require you to report all your runs. I don't know if you're familiar, there's a linear density that they use for the funding formula, which basically, in layman terms, is the number of students you're serving per mile. And so the more efficient you are, typically your funding level is greater. And in 2010, 2011, prior to that, they would not allow districts to report charter schools, such as you have a dual language campus. That could not have been reported. After 2010, 2011, TEA said you can report everything. So consequently, what happened, a lot of districts wanted to protect their linear density level, but they would actually lose money because, again, like in Cy-Fair, we threw everything in and we gained over $1 million, but we did drop the funding level. But because the miles were greater, there was more money. But again, in reviewing your reports, you have done an amazing job. And I want to send out a kudos to Ms. Lisa over here, because in creating your operations reports, if you will notice, Corsicana and Ennis, and let's see, where's the other one? Is it Jacksonville? Each one of those districts showed that their special needs cost per mile was less than, and I can tell you that typically that's not going to be the case, because in special needs you're transporting a lot less students, you're going a lot greater number of miles, you have a driver and an attendant or an aide on that run. It's your most expensive program. But what happens when they receive their final ledgers from the finance department, they don't know to go in and modify based on their salaries for their staffs had not been separated between the two programs. Sometimes that's true for fuel. Sometimes it's true for the mechanics' salaries. So it looks like your regular program's top heavy, and that's not the case. So it's really hard when you are trying to compare yourselves to other districts, knowing that the services are different, did they complete their reports correctly? And I do have the opportunity to teach special, or the TEA reporting at the TAPT conferences, and it's amazing the number of districts that are not familiar. So again, kudos, because Ms. Lisa, that was the first thing I noticed just before I ever got here, is that what a great job of accurate reporting that was done, because she takes your miles and she percentaged out the cost, and I was like, that is so impressive. Because it's one thing for the director to know it, but for your finance CFO to know that, great job.
Well done, Lisa.
Right, I was just like super incredible, like, oh my goodness. Transportation directors don't do that. In looking at field trips, of course, there's been a decrease in the number of trips over the last several years, and I'm suspecting, I don't know this, but I'm suspecting it's a cost savings measure, and that's very typical when you're trying to look at cutting costs. You cut down on the number of trips that are taken. One thing that we discussed was possibly changing the method for billing field trips, because it can be confusing for the campuses to determine how to budget for that, because they're currently billing based on the driver's actual salary, and they have no way of knowing what that's going to be. So we did talk about that. We did talk about field trips being assigned to drivers by the morning dispatcher. And anytime, I can tell you, working with drivers for years, Field trips are a precious commodity. They're fun, they may be with grandchildren, they may be just because they're extra income. So that's always something that's a big target area. So anything that you can do to make that more transparent, which is allowing them to select openly. And I can share that they love the idea and plan to implement it next year, so that's gonna be a real positive for the department. Because then everyone knows what everyone's getting and they're making the decisions. For any of you that have been to the facility, this is no surprise. There's certainly a lot of repairs that are needed. Of course, there's the facility itself is of course aged. The parking lot and the bus driver in need of repair as far as for repairing the holes. There you can see the image to the left is in the shop area. The roof vents, there are actually holes on the sides of the roof vents where every time it rains, they get rain in the shop area, which makes it, undesirable working conditions, obviously, for your technicians, and probably slows processes down a bit. So that was something that was noticed. And also, they were sharing that there's no lighting in the parking area, so when you have drivers that are leaving early in the mornings and it's dark, or late in the evenings, it's a little bit of a safety issue because there's no lighting there.
They go $1 million, man.
It's exciting that they are the department is currently looking at implementing a new sophisticated fleet maintenance program to track efficiencies and preventive maintenances. The program they have now is outdated, and it needs to be, something needs to happen there, because they can keep up with the cost of the vehicles, they can determine the productivity of their mechanics, and what they have is not able to do that. So kudos to Mr. Lampkin for recognizing that and realizing there's many other products out there that they can consider. And the department is maintaining an approximate one technician to every 25 buses, which is acceptable. But it's important to note that based on industry standards, that's acceptable, but it doesn't take into consideration the white fleet that they manage, nor does it take into consideration that, of course, the technicians, when you're short of drivers, are driving. And the value, too, of a nice fleet maintenance program is they can actually plug in their hours that they're driving, so you can see true productivity for your technicians. And looking at your school bus fleet, the recommended replacement schedule from the Legislative Budget Board is anywhere from 12 to 15 years. And your fleet is actually pretty, I was surprised. You've got a really decent, the overall age, of course, was 8.8 years, which isn't bad. Your average age of your special needs buses is 6.4. And the oldest special needs bus is a 2000-year model. And then, of course, the average age of your regular buses is 9.2, and the oldest full regular buses are 96-year models. And with replacement of 10 actual vehicles, you could be within a 15-year replacement schedule. But it's important to actually write that out and see it in writing and determine how many buses do we want to purchase each year to make sure we're maintaining, do we need for growth? Have things changed? Have we actually cut some routes so we can actually reduce? So it's something that it's ongoing. You don't just create it and then set it aside. It's something you look at with your routing needs and your bus needs each school year.
Let me stop you if I may and ask a question here.
Certainly.
Because this sounds really good. What you're saying is a nice shot in the arm compared to some of what we've heard, that our fleet is aging pretty well. If we take that recommendation that you made, I think your term was triple
routing.
Triple routing. I would assume that would reduce the number of buses that you would need?
And again, because of the size of your district and the rural routes, you have some pretty long ride times. I think you guys, if you can have the 3 tiers, but go for at least 2 on every bus. Double is good for you because of your size, because you're pretty spread out and it's going to be really hard to accomplish 3. But again, back to the initial recommendation of reducing it to 2 per bus, or increasing it actually 2 per bus, you would eliminate buses that would actually put you close to that goal.
Well, and that's what I was just thinking. So here it's saying if we replaced 10 buses, we would be close to our, where we needed to be. That's assuming our current routes, right? So if we did the triple routing, it would be less than 10 buses that we would need to replace.
Yes, ma'am. And that's why it's important to look at it year to year. We want to stay, your director will stay on top of that, because as programs change, as you make changes, it could increase or decrease depending on what you've done in your district and the decisions you've made. And then you would just, plan ahead of time. And then, of course, the lease purchase with funding or the financing so inexpensive right now, that's a great way to purchase buses. And of course, someday if you have a bond's even better.
Sure.
Because you can put buses.
Well, and I
and
know
save your money.
later tonight, we're gonna be talking about buses, and so I guess my question here, based on the idea of triple routing, how many buses, in your expert opinion, would we need to look at replacing right now? Based on what you're seeing right here, you're saying 10 here, but if we triple route, that number will come down.
Well, if you remove, we shared earlier, if you cut 8, well, then you would need to replace 2. But another thing to consider is, and it's in the report, is the consideration to increase the number of coaches driving. Because again, you're gonna reduce some department overtime, and you're going to increase, and for the coaches, it's great, because they have a bus when they need it. But we need to keep that in mind before we get rid of these older buses. Do we need to hang on to the buses? Because we've really solved nothing. We have a coach coming to wait on a bus coming back from a route. That's very frustrating for a coach. You want it to be able to, we want buses to be available to them as they need them. They get them at their convenience, maybe a planning time or something that they're able to get away to get a bus. So it's a whole big picture. You want to look at the whole package. Yes, that certainly, if you were able to make modifications to reduce those 8 buses, you've got 8 of your 10 right there. But consider, growth, replacement. Is that program going to grow when you need more coaches driving? And we're again, 2 things: saving money. We're making our route safer because we're keeping our regular drivers on the buses rather than pulling them off for trial trips.
So I'm not a transportation person, so I'm trying to follow your logic there. You're saying just for our routes, theoretically, and we did the rescheduling, so next year theoretically we could get by with 2 new buses and we'd be in pretty good shape, except for the fact that those buses would just be route buses and it wouldn't take into consideration having extra buses for the coaches to take. Is that what you're saying?
You would want to look at that. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying your transportation department needs to take a look at several things. They're going to look at how many buses are down at any given time. That's important to know. How many coaches are requesting? I believe at this time, when I was here, there were 6 coaches currently driving. Do I have buses available to those coaches? Breakdowns, those kind of things. But that's part of the importance of having that big replacement schedule and knowing what your needs are, and then backing out. This is what we have. This is what we need to replace each year, based on the age of the buses now. And the challenge, such as you see, and I can't see the year, forgive me, but you have 10 buses at one particular year model and 11. That's the challenge when it comes time for replacement. If you have that schedule, you maybe want to replace 5 one year and 5 the next, not try to replace all 10.
Right.
Where you do that, where it's, best for the district as far as financial burden.
Could I ask maybe, Mr. Lampkin, the coaches normally use the travel buses, or do they use the route buses?
They use the route buses. Travel buses have designated drivers.
And what do they use for?
They only drive the regular yellow buses. The expresses are driven by assigned drivers that run strictly varsity sports, and then other activities when we're not running those sports. But the coaches, they drive strictly the yellow buses.
And what are they driving for, like routes or for sports?
The coaches, they drive for sports. That's to cover some of our activity, our trips in the afternoons, or the coaches.
There are some teachers also drive in the morning, correct?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've got a question. Is your responsibility at this point, once you give the report done, or are you going to be able to come back? Are you going to come back and work with the transportation director to help to develop the plan? I'm just trying to see, or is this, because I'm sitting here, I'm kind of sitting here thinking,
I've kind of gotten what I need, I think.
this is bigger than, this could almost be a meeting into itself.
Right.
'Cause
And
of-
that's the beauty of when you bring TASBO consultants in. I can tell you I've made some great lifelong friends that I still hear from. And I'm passionate, there's a few things I'm passionate about, and this is one of them, so I'm available. You all have my number, in all these areas. And if I don't know,
We might have to
I'll
pull that
find
on the
someone
agenda.
that does.
Because I found it to be, as an old, I'm an old bus driver for 7 years.
And you
Even,
can relate.
huh?
You can relate.
Oh, yeah. But I was sitting there, after reading the report, it was a little bit overwhelming, a little bit, just as a board member sitting there thinking, I mean, I want to listen to your report, but I'll just say that I see this beyond just us at this board meeting tonight. This needs to be sat down with Ms. Barbarick and Mr. Lampkin and you and develop a pretty extensive plan and not so much developing a plan tonight. Is that right?
Right, and certainly I'm available.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so you're up to coming back.
Until next month.
I do great conference calls.
Okay.
What we would like to see, what they're talking about right now, I know Pam was saying that she's gotten a crux of what she needs for tonight for us to make some current plans, but it isn't so in-depth, and some of the things that we're considering changing for the community and for our bus routes to save money are going to take more in-depth discussion and understanding. And we've got some plans that we may not put in this year because they're so major that they may wait till next year, but we need to plan it out and be able to communicate and do everything during this year to get ready for it. So we would like to come back, if you don't mind. And have y'all gotten what you need for tonight? And then
Yes,
come,
we have.
and then
We do.
come back. Give them time to read it again after you've talked about this. And we need to set up probably a separate meeting just to discuss this, because it's huge in this community.
It is.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, okay, we're gonna do triple route.
That's-
and
that's
this is gonna
right.
happen.
Right.
I think there's several things. You have some pretty long ride times
Mm-hmm.
on your routes where you can take advantage if you can reduce a couple of routes and use those routes to make it more favorable for parents, if you will. Because they're our customers.
Right.
And we want to do what we can, because if we get those students to school, we can educate them.
Right.
And some of them may not be able to get to school unless we're able to get them to school. So it's bigger than just taking pieces, and I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm wondering, Mr. President, if we, while we've got their expertise here, if we could pull item 7D up in the agenda and intermingle it with this conversation.
Of transportation.
On transportation.
In the action agenda.
Yes.
7D, that's okay, isn't it, Holly?
Yeah, we can take that up.
7D, for instance, is for us to consider the leasing of, what is it, 15?
Action on lease
Is
purchase.
that fifth grade, is that 15 buses?
Yes, sir.
Leasing 15 new buses.
So if we could get your help.
And
And I'm sure that, I'm guessing, I was not a part of that conversation, but my assumption would be that that's covering your replacement of the 10, possibly some growth or changes, and then also preparing for coaches, because there's been a push to try to get more coaches. And I'm putting words in Stacy's mouth, but he's shaking his head yes.
Are we replacing 10 buses?
I think my question here is very specific to, I'm seeing a report that's saying, you know, we may need to be looking at 10 buses as opposed to 15 buses. And so I wanted to kind of get your perspective on that.
10 was only getting you to a 15-year replacement schedule. That doesn't account for any other, again, coaches, like I shared, looking at, I saw some pretty long routes that if it were my department, I would probably want to shorten the length of some of those routes. But we're combining campus levels. That's long rides for those little ones. And it's hard to just come in and say cut, but because I can tell you, looking at their routes, they've been cutting based
Okay.
on what their resources are and the cards they've been doing.
And of course, we wouldn't be able to look at any triple routing until the next school year. It wouldn't be
Exactly.
anything we would implement this year.
Correct.
But what I don't want to do is go out and buy in excess number of buses when we know we're looking at triple routing next year. What would be the optimum number of buses to potentially look at this year?
We're glad to be here to have this dialogue with the district, but it's outside of our scope to be advising you how many buses to purchase or make a decision on tonight. As Superintendent Dowdy said, there's community meetings and planning, and I think we heard that double tier may be feasible for some routes, but not triple tier. So there's a lot of analysis that needs to be done, planning, and it'd be a little, I think, short on analysis to try to come to a different number than what you've been advised to purchase according to your agenda. So,
Thank you so much.
So could we get them
We'll
to
just
look
pull
at
it
that,
down.
though?
Let's just pull it.
And they can look at it.
What is your recommendation, Ms. Dowdy?
Well, my recommendation is since we did not get together on that one item, in other words, I think y'all have got a plan, Gray and Stacy, of the 15 buses, but at the same time, I would like to study what you were talking about, because we did not communicate both of those topics together, if I'm right. When they were here, we did not discuss that together.
Right.
Okay,
And be sure we understand that
Okay.
she's talking about strictly by age of bus.
right.
But that group of 2013s, which is 11 buses, those are our Bluebirds, in which we've already replaced 3 engines in those buses. And that is not, that is one thing we're trying to get away from those completely, because it allows us to take our items that we have mechanic-wise, and we have everything as Thomas, and we have a place to move those Bluebirds. So we want to get those, as many of those off as we can, and then start replacing the older ones. So it's not always just what year is this bus? It's, how is this bus working for you, and how much time is it taking your mechanics to keep these on the road?
Right. Is it costing you more than it's actually worth?
Correct.
You want to
We could pull it till next month and let us have it.
I'll defer to Ms. Dowdy. I know that she was concerned because of the school start time too, so.
Right, because we can't change the school start time and so forth this year. But Gray, what would it do, or Stacy, if we put it for one more month for us to look at? What's it gonna do?
He had a drop dead date. I don't.
Sta-
I didn't hear the whole question.
Put this off till next month to get the buses.
If we put it off to next month to do the buses, by then the cost of each bus will go up anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 per bus.
Why?
Because of some of the new guidelines that's coming aboard for school buses. Right now, with the purchase of the 15 buses that we're able to purchase, Thomas made a special accommodation for us that they took $2,600 off of each bus that we're buying right now. Where that if we wait and go into this next month or into the next month, then it's going to be, like I said, anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 per bus is what the cost will jump to.
Now, you mentioned seatbelt. So these buses will not have seatbelts?
These are
Okay.
2017s.
Will they have seatbelts? No.
Not these coming in.
If the law is passed, then would we be required to add seatbelts?
Okay, Greg, you want?
You aren't required, and y'all will have the opportunity to say whether we do or do not want seatbelts on our buses. But in 2018 bus models, you have to decide as a board, we're going to buy them with seatbelts or we're going to request them not be on them. But they're supposed to start putting them on all buses in 2018.
And then when you go back to that, where we're buying 78 passenger buses, it's what I like to understand, when you go to the seatbelts, okay, you put 3 seatbelts per seat. When you have a 78 passenger bus, you go from a 78 passenger bus to a 60 passenger bus. Because only with pre-K, you're able to probably get 3 to a seat. When you start doing middle school, high school, you end up with just 2 per seat on the buses.
Would y'all, okay, and I know when we met in the financial committee, Gray was going to do I believe, 4 options for us. He was going
Yeah,
to
we
present,
have-
right.
Well, I think Lisa has the options, because it's the, but we're talking about 15, and when we've talked, and she looked at it, that we could make 2 payments
Right.
in 2 years, and we're good on her end for that, and then we could replace all of those buses.
50.
And we are in, or Stacy, we're in negotiations with another district that is willing to take a number of those Bluebirds, because they're in such desperate need of buses, period, that they want those buses will help us to recoup some of this money that we're going to be spending. And
Let's move on, we'll leave it on the agenda.
Okay.
and they'll take.
Thank you.
And on the Bluebirds also, as I like to say, is that, you know, it's a big joke for us, because every day when we start a route, we say, okay, how many Bluebirds we gonna have in the shop?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We end up with 2
Thank you.
per shop.
Let's wait and listen to the options.
Oh, we'll leave it on the
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah.
We'll leave it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, in reviewing, of course, the parts inventory room, it's very neat, orderly. They have a great management system of receiving the tickets and consolidate, or to actually, I want to say, Lisa.
Are you talking about the
Great
consignment
way-
part?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about the consignment part of it?
Well, there are consignment, you can see the red labels that show that those parts are in consignment, but also when the receiving tickets come in, they're making sure that they have receiving tickets for every invoice that's being paid. And having been in numerous districts, that's a good thing, because not all districts do that. So you're making sure that you know what bills you're paying, because you're getting, what is that word? That's horrible.
Package slip or I'm
It's
sorry.
not
I don't
important.
know.
Never mind.
It's
Show
good,
my
whatever it is,
craziness.
good.
They're doing a good job. Risk management, recently TEA has required school districts to report their bus accidents. That's not incidents, but they're actual accidents, showing, of course, number of accidents, injuries, fatalities, and annual miles traveled. And you have an impeccable record. To me, that's pretty good, that for a couple of years, you didn't even have to report them because they were so minor. And then, of course, 15, 16, you had 3, and apparently there were 50 students that had to be transported. So kudos to NISD. It is recommended that you have an accident review board, though, and that could be done in conjunction with your police department to determine, because you not only have your school buses on the road, but you have district employees and district vehicles. And so you want to determine, you have safe individuals in your vehicles. And it was determined that as far as motor vehicle records, Stacy's doing an amazing job. He has access to the Department of Public Safety's MVRs, where he can go in and order those for all of the transportation drivers. For those that request the white fleet vehicles, for coaches, he maintains those on a regular basis, and that's great risk management. What we were unable to determine, and it doesn't mean it isn't happening, we're just not sure who's doing it, for you have drivers in other departments that are driving other department vehicles, that you want to make sure that those individuals are being checked as well, just again, for risk management.
Can I ask, I think the board, what they're wanting to do at this time is set this at another night so we can go into it more detail, if y'all don't mind.
Okay.
Because like they said, it's so consuming for them. They've read it, but they want to get into more detail. They want to listen to tonight, I think, what Gray's options were about the buses. They wanted to hear this portion especially, but then come back, if y'all would please, so that we could have a meeting just for this, because we've got to understand, like the triple and double routes, the effect it's going to have on the transportation of kids in different areas of the city, and how we're going to have to plan for that with PR and the whole bit. So there's a lot to be done, but I think that if I could get y'all to come back when we have a special meeting for this, because it's overwhelming in one sense, and we wanted to get on with the buses tonight with this part of the report.
Thank you. Let me
Okay.
make sure, was everybody's questions answered? Pam? Mr. Matoya? Coach? Steve?
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, all items listed will be acted on with one motion. If there's a board member who wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda separately, please indicate the agenda letter, and it will be set aside for further discussion at a separate vote.
I would like to pull item 6B, please.
One second. Amendments. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay. All right.
I make a motion that we accept the consent items except for 6B.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Green and second by Mr. Neal that the consent agenda would be accepted and approved, precluding item 6B. All in favor? Show with elevation of the right hand. Opposed? It's unanimous. Ms. Fitch.
I just wanted to pull this for a separate vote. I have no questions.
I make a motion that we vote on 6B.
I second myself.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Neal, that we will approve item 6B. All in favor will indicate by the elevation of the right hand. All those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We'll move now to the action, to the action agenda.
Mr. President, regarding action agenda item 7A, I'd make a motion to approve the employment of professional personnel as recommended by administration.
It has been moved in second by Ms. Fitch and Mr. Matalia. Those in favor will show by the elevation of the right hand. Those opposed?
Could we just a second introduce on it, Michael?
This is just teachers on this one.
Thank you. We'd like
Thanks,
to
everybody.
first introduce our new Director of Bilingual and ESL Services.
We haven't voted on administration yet.
We have a second
Is it
vote.
not administration yet?
No,
Mr.
this
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hold on one
Sorry.
second.
This might say,
Mr. President, I make a move to approve administrator's recommendation for one-year administrator's contract as presented.
have we voted on the first one yet?
We have a motion. Yes, we just voted that.
Okay.
I'll second.
It has been motioned by Mr. Coach Fashid and second by Ms. Fitch of the one-year administration contracts. Those in favor, show by the elevation of the hand. Those that oppose, motion carried.
Now I'm not going
Now.
to get in trouble. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. We'd like to introduce first our new Director of Bilingual and ESL Services, Ms. Evelyn Sauce. And our new Assistant Principal at Kaufman Elementary, Mr. Chris Drake.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, we have the gifts and donation. Ms. Lisa Barber.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm bringing to you a donation of $13,000 that was received from the Nacogdoches Athletic Booster Club for the purchase of football uniforms.
What is your pleasure?
Mr. President, I'll have to make a comment. When you say athletic booster club, does it specifically says booster club, for example, quarterback club or general booster club?
I am not given that information.
Because to clarify this, every athletic program has their own booster club.
That is correct, but with what's given to me is only stated as the Athletic Booster Club.
Okay, we may need to clarify those as a.
Each time, yeah. I
Each
got
time.
because of, yeah.
Because there's so many different booster clubs, they want their money to go their own directions.
So we can get a little bit more clarity.
I can do that.
Being this is football uniforms, I want to think it's the quarterback club when you,
I assume it's quarterback.
right,
Yes, sir.
okay. All right.
But we need to probably get that
We
more
need to
specific each
clarify
time.
because there are some parents who
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
contact me and ask why.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move the board approve cash donation of $13,000 from the Athletic Booster Club.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's moved by Mr. Neal and second by Ms. Fitch the approval of the $13,000 from the Nacogdoches Athletic Booster Club. All in favor will show by the raising of the right hand. Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we'll have superintendent.
Board members, in reviewing board policies this year, and we're not near through them, one of the ones we came across, and Cindy Ivy, where are you in case I need you? We came across an error in one of the, it was a typo, actually, that had occurred in one of the board policies that we've had for some time on the local policy EIC, academic achievement for class ranking. It was supposed to have read, where you see underlined in there, states that class rank will be calculated at the end of the third of the fifth 6 weeks grading period. Class rank should be calculated at the end of the sixth 6-week grading period. That was an error in typing.
Instead of fifth.
Instead of fifth, and that had happened years ago. So we caught that information and confirmed it, and so we need to change that at this time before we start the school year.
All right. What is your pleasure, board?
I make a motion that we approve the first reading of revised local policy EIC.
I second.
It's been motioned by Mr. Green and second by Coach Fasheed. All those in favor will show by elevation of the hand. Vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. All right. Last but not least, we'll have Mr. Burton to come forth with the Thomas bus purchase.
Good evening, President Urban, board members, and Ms. Dowdy. You can see before you, as Tasbo has come in and talked to us about our buses, and leaning on Mr. Lampkin and our mechanics, we're bringing tonight the lease purchase of 15 Thomas buses, 15 2017 model Thomas buses. As I stated earlier, we have some buses that aren't Thomas buses that we need to get rid of. We have some buses that need to be replaced, period, because of age. So we have a number. Our fleet, you may not know it by the age, is in need of continued repair. Several years ago, we were on a plan to replace 6 buses a year. That the plan didn't make it past the first year. So I would completely agree that you don't like to purchase a large number at once, because then they're all going to come up later. But at some point, you don't really have a choice. If you can continue to pay $200,000 to $270,000 in maintenance, bills for your buses, and take the time away from your mechanics, or you step out and you buy the buses. I visited with Mr. Barbrick, and really believe the best thing for us, because we do have the money that we could pull and set aside out of fund balance, is to make 2 payments for these buses. That would be at 2% interest rate. Without going through the numbers exactly, it would be about $760,000 for the next 2 years is what it would commit the district to doing. Like I said before, we are planning on and are negotiating to get rid of some of these Bluebirds that we have. We do have at least 2 sources that are very interested in them, one more so than the other, an actual district, and they're willing to buy the buses, as many of them will sell to them, and all the parts that we have that go along with those buses. So we would like to be out from under that, like a better word, that brand, if it's at all possible.
Gray, when we met the other day, that was one of the options that we had talked about with the financial committee. It was, the 2 payments, but is that saying to delay for 1 year, or to make the payment up front, 1 payment up front?
I thought that when we spoke today, it kind of seemed like we didn't want to delay the payment.
That's what I thought.
We should pay a payment and then pay the next payment.
That's what I had understood from the committee.
And that would allow us to,
So it'd be 1 up front and then 1 up.
We didn't want to delay.
Right.
How many Bluebirds do we currently have in the fleet?
there are 11 at one age, I think there's 2 more that are 30.
19 of them covered today.
19.
19, so it doesn't get rid of all of them.
But it's that 1 year model for some reason
That we're having a lot
that will really have more trouble. These buses aren't any more than, what is it, they're 2013, they're 4 years old. And you don't replace an engine on a 4-year-old.
So, go ahead.
Are those buses, the buses you're gonna try to give to other districts?
No, we're not
To
giving.
South?
Yes, sir.
Have you come up with some amount of how much we would get back from those buses?
That's why we have not completed it. We're still in negotiations with that. We know we're not gonna get, anywhere close to 100,000 like we're paying for these. But they have, especially the district's been a lot more open to working with us on getting those buses.
So these 15 aren't replacing the 10 oldest buses in the fleet. These 15 would be replacing newer Bluebirds. Is that what you're saying?
Some, yes. Like I said, we'd like to get rid of as many of those as possible. Having just put 3 engines in 3 buses, you're almost inclined to at least get your engine money back out of that bus. But before they keep dropping, we want to let them go somebody else.
And the funds are available in our fund
I
balance.
guess the thing that kind of concerns me a little bit here is I guess when we first started talking about this, I was assuming we were replacing old buses, but we're not replacing old buses. So we just had a presentation that we've got 10 old buses that need replacing, correct? Am I summarizing that correctly?
No, what we want to do, and I thought what I explained, is that we want to maximize our money on our fleet, so we're getting rid of the 10 worst buses. They may be, a lot of times they are the oldest buses, but sometimes they're not the oldest buses. Sometimes you have those years where they're not good. We're trying to make an economic decision that we can get out of some that's costing us more. Our 96 model buses, they may be old, but they run, and they get, where we need to go. At a point, they need to go as well, just because of the age, things start breaking. We know now, these only being 4 years old, they're just not, it's not in our financial best interest to keep those buses on our routes, more so than a 96. Not saying the 96 won't be gone, but we're gonna actually look and see what we put in to these buses and see which ones that we need to designate to be gone by the amount of repairs that have been placed on those buses right now, and then of course age and everything else. Age is not always the go-to when you're talking about a bus.
I can see that, I suppose.
One of the things that was brought up in Finance Committee that I think is important is these Thomas buses will have a 3-year bumper-to-bumper warranty and a 5-year warranty on drivetrain.
Yes, sir.
And you said a 10-year warranty on...
10-year warranty on the floor, everything below and above the floor, items there. Allison transmission, which what buses have, they give an additional, I think it's 2 years on the transmission itself. That's a 7-year warranty. These are Cummins engines, Allison transmissions. These are, they're stock buses, but they're stock the way we do them, air conditioned, the way that ours are outfitted now.
Are you also saying, because it didn't come up in Finance Committee about the seat belts, these could be retrofitted with seat belts? They won't come with them, but they could be retrofitted?
Yes. But,
on the retrofitting, because of with everything that goes on with retrofitting, it's going to be very difficult to find a company that will retrofit buses if they do not come with the seatbelts. So that's one of the issues there. I called that because I knew that question would probably come up tonight, and I called and asked that today.
So we would be looking at an additional amount to put those seatbelts in, should we purchase those without the seatbelts?
If we go back and wait and purchase buses with the seatbelts in them, you're going to look at adding $8,000 to $10,000 per bus.
We don't want to.
And you lose the size of it.
But the state will not mandate us.
no, sir.
No, sir.
It'll be a board decision.
Yes, sir.
And there's been no talk in that at all about retrofitting any buses.
And none of them have seatbelts now.
No, well, you could order them.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
During the fall sports, some of the sports, they have charter buses.
Yes, sir.
Where that budget comes from? Is it transportation budget or?
On the charter buses, we allow coaches to take a charter if they can come up with the funds through their boosters to pay above what it would cost us as a department to send them. For instance, if you were going to Ennis and you needed 3 buses, the district is going to pay for a driver, 3 drivers and 3 buses that we would already pay to go. And if your booster club can make up the difference, you can take a charge. But we will only pay the amount that we would normally pay for entry.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Ms. Barber, I know we had some discussions the other day about, I think the original proposal was to finance this out for
Finance
3
it,
years.
right, with the
We talked
delayed
about just
payment.
buying lump sum, we talked about splitting it into 2 payments, then we talked about possibly just buying 5 years for the next several years, and you were gonna kind of go back and crunch the numbers. After having done that, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is the fund balance could afford to pay it outright, but it would seriously put us, way down. Not a lot of wiggle room. My recommendation is that if we can split it into 2, and the first payment up front, then a good portion of it is being paid out up front, and the interest would be much smaller, and it would be paid off in 2 years rather than over 4 years.
And you did say we had like I want to say it was a 2% interest rate that you'd been able to negotiate?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's
what I
correct.
think, right.
So we're talking about paying what, $700,000 up front?
$760,000.
Up front?
Up front.
And then pay the other?
Next year, pay the next.
The next one.
Okay.
Ms. Dowdy, knowing, and I'm sure I know the Facilities Committee is getting started meeting, but do you have any reservations about committing that much out of fund balance for buses as opposed to other needs in the district?
When you ask me that, I always, cringe because we have so many needs. But I know also we've got to tackle the bus situation. I like the idea of the 2 payments and one up front, like we discussed the other day, instead of any kind of postponement. So I would be more apt to go with what Lisa has recommended based on our information of the 2 payments.
And you believe this is the highest use of that fund balance money at this time?
There's so many things that equal that we're going to have to do it, so I think we need to go ahead and do this. Yes, I would recommend it.
What about the holes in the parking lot?
Well,
The buses they drive quicker, they can get.
But if you hit one of
We're
them,
gonna have
it's
to-
gonna knock it out of line.
that is a concern.
Because of safety issues for employees.
And please, let me reiterate again, and I've said this to y'all several times. The repair cost, we will save money in repairs. I think if you look through your document, they gave you 6311, no, 63, I don't know what the number is exactly, but it's maintenance and repairs. We've spent over $200,000 every year
For maintenance.
for repairs on our buses. That's not counting what goes out, which has been 70 to 80 because they're repairs we can't make. We spend half as much on repairs as we did on fuel, which is $400,000. So the age may be good, but the amount of work we're doing on our buses is eating us alive.
And the other thing,
That's 2 buses every year we keep as is that we could not be buying.
the other thing was, we had TASBO come in to do this survey and to tell us what we needed at this time. And they're looking at the overall, and they're saying we need to have replacements. And so we've got to start it. There's many things we've got to start on rotation, but this is one
I
of
was a little bit
them.
confused by that. I'm
I
still a
know.
little confused on that
I know.
report because I know when we met in committee, one of my questions was, is this the TASBO recommendation?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was yes. But what I heard tonight was more around 10, and so that confused me just a little bit.
And then when she says 10, but yet you got to look at all these others, so that they might need. So, and the concern are these Bluebird buses that are falling apart. So,
The 10 was to get the age to the
Age,
appropriate
right.
level. Doesn't consider the repairs that we're having to make, doesn't consider
Right.
having buses available for field trips.
right.
So her purview was very narrow in the 10.
Thank you so much. All right. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the lease purchase of 15 2017 Thomas buses
Do we need to state it
on the
as
2
two
annual
payment deal?
payments.
Two payments?
Yes.
Two payments with the money coming out of fund balance?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that the motion?
Which a budget revision would be coming to you next month then.
All right.
I'll second.
Did that hurt?
That hurt?
It hurts every time. It hurts me.
That's not air conditionings and roofs, it hurts.
It's been moved by Mr. Neal and second by Mr. Fitch to purchase the 2017 Thomas buses with two
Can I
payments.
make one statement before I vote? And I'll vote for it, Bill. Just make sure, just look back and make sure that we check again. I'm gonna vote for it, but I wanna make sure we can seat belt them.
Seat belt them.
Check all sources. I would hate to save money and have something
Yeah.
happen. Okay. Ready? Okay.
All in favor? Wow, unanimous. Mr. Lampkin, you got 15 new buses. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you so very much.
More in the house.
And how are we gonna pay for those new multimedia?
She said we have that date. I'm not ready for that.
All right.
I mean, I know we gotta have it, but I'm not.
Is that it?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
You guys have a good evening.